And it's got all these words on here. Our word right here in Seneca language is Yahweh. In some ways it can be translated to thank you. But what you'll see is all these
It's Yahweh.
Yahweh. Yah.
Yahweh.
Yeah.
Nia.
Yah.
The Y is an I sound. Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Okay.
And
it means thanks or give thanks?
it means basically, it can be translated to like thank you.
Uh-huh.
And up here and all around you see these different words in different languages. And these also all say thank you. So I don't know if you have a native language you guys are familiar with that you guys speak or know of. Well, maybe it's up there. That's not all of the languages, of course. There's too many in the world, but there's a lot of them. I mean, you got Gracias, you got Miigwech. Miigwech is actually an Ojibwe term, but there's a lot of other ones. Spanish.
And these all are saying thank you?
They're all saying thank you.
Okay. So in Sabbatic, we say for plural, for a group of people, we say tawukum, or we say tawuhat. For a male, we would say tawutek. For a female, we would say tawutat. Means thank you. So if there's a group of people here and I want to thank them, I would say tawuhat or tawukum.
What language is that again?
That's Sabbatic.
Sabbatic, okay.
Yeah, or Nuwapic. It's Sabian. It's a stellar culture. We're called star people or stellar people. So the language would be Saba. It was in ancient Egypt.
Right.
It's part of the ancient Egyptian language.
Right.
But it was pre-dynastic. It existed before all the dynastic period. It went back to the Ta, the pygmy people.
Oh, really?
They called them Dors.
Yeah, no, I don't know enough about the Egyptian history, but that's something that I really appreciate it. It's pretty cool. I wish I knew more about it.
Can you tell me about the photographs, the pictures you have here, the images?
These are all, so our building, you're at the Seneca Iroquois National Museum right now, but this building is actually a cultural center. So there's the Seneca Iroquois National Museum is here, which you're standing in. We also have the archives department, so the department that archives all material from the Seneca Nation, digital, print, and all that stuff. That's here in this building too, as well as the TIPO department, the Tribal Historic Preservation Office. Those three departments are in this cultural center. So it's not just the Seneca Iroquois National Museum. So the actual cultural center is called the ONOHSAGWE Cultural Center. ONOHSAGWE means basically a house with two openings in it. All right, so that name was given to this gentleman, his English name, Richard Johnny John. So we named the building after Richard Johnny John, and the reason being is because he was really a key in a lot of revitalization of showing our culture, preserving our culture, teaching our culture. He was a volunteer fireman out here in the Allegheny Territory. He taught Seneca language and culture in local schools. And he had dance troupes where he would go around and do performances and educate people on our culture. And this was at a time when it's not like it is today where a lot of people now do that. You can call somebody and they can come and do a performance, and there's a lot of different dance troupes, for lack of better words, out there locally. There's a lot. But back then, during this time, there wasn't really anybody doing that.
And what time period are we looking at here?
Probably the 50s, 60s. I think he was born in 1913, I believe, something like that. And so, because of his involvement, his passion for our culture, the building was named after him. So here in the ONOHSAGWE Cultural Center, Richard Johnny John is. And
are some of his lineage or his descendants still around?
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, they live a lot of them live down in the Steenberg community, which is down the road. But they're all
so these mountains that we hear in this area, these are considered the Alleghenies, Allegheny territory? Or what are these mountains called?
These are Allegheny Mountains.
These are Allegheny Mountains.
But you're also in the Allegheny territory.
Allegheny territory.
Right.
Okay, I got you. And what's this in the display case you have here?
This is a really important piece here. This is a wampum belt, but it's not made of actual wampum. Instead, because normally wampum is made out of coal.
Say the word again.
Wampum.
Wampum.
Wampum. So normally wampum beads are strung together and they're made out of quahog shells. They're usually purple and white on the inside. They're pretty common shells, quahog. This one isn't made, but the colors are there. These are made out of clay beads, I believe. But what's important about this, and this was made recently, it's a one-of-a-kind piece. It was made by Rich Hamel, who is an educator on wampum belts of the Haudenosaunee people and other tribes.
Would you answer one question for me?
Yeah.
How is this belt worn?
It's actually not.
It's not worn at all.
What these wampum belts are, in the past, have always been records in time. So when you see that Five Nations belt with the tree and then the squares, that was a wampum belt. Nobody wore it, but they were strung together as records of an event that happened. So that Five Nations thing, that was a recorded event of the Five Nations coming together and becoming one. So that's what they're typically used for. This is a contemporary one. This is about the veterans of Native people. What's interesting about it is it's in Morse code. So it's got the beads, the white and the purple, which it normally does, but it's actually real Morse code. So up on top, that top line actually in Morse code says Native American. The bottom line, way at the bottom, says Code Talkers. And then those four in the middle, next to the diamond, all say World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and Korea. So this is to honor the veterans, Native veterans that fought in these major wars. One thing big in our culture is we honor our veterans, and a lot of people don't know that, or maybe they don't understand why, because they go fight for the United States and a nation that has definitely oppressed us and almost exterminated us. But nonetheless, we still have to honor those people that, you know, from our communities that go and fight in those wars. It's important for us. So this is just a belt to honor the veterans and the people that were part of the code talking in the world wars. The Seneca were a part of it. There was a few, the Mohawks too, because I mean, normally you hear about like, what is it, the Navajo code talkers. I think there's a movie about it, but a lot of people don't understand that we actually were a part of those as well in those wars.
Okay.
So this is a good piece to honor the veterans. It's not a real wampum belt, but it is a wampum belt. You know.
Understood. That's very interesting how they've sewn it into the belt, the actual language of code talking. That's very interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's good that you all honor those that serve. Can you tell me about the doll in the box here?
Yeah, these dolls, you'll see these little displays here.
And what the headdress represents?
Well, this is about Handsome Lake, who was a Seneca prophet. So
say his name again.
Handsome Lake.
Handsome Lake.
Yeah.
Like a lake.
Yeah.
Handsome Lake.
Handsome Lake. That's what his name translated to.
What is his tribal name?
I don't even know how.
Just
to
Handsome Lake.
We just
okay. He was a prophet.
He was a prophet.
Okay.
And what happened was, and he was that was in the 1700s, early 1800s, I believe, when he was alive and had his prophecies. Mm-hmm. So at that time, the Seneca people, and he was from right here in Allegheny, he had these visions. And at the time, our people were suffering greatly from alcoholism, poverty. It was after all the wars were over. We're settling on reservations, and our people are just not in a good place. And he had these visions on how to bring our people out of it. These messages that you'll see throughout our exhibits, messengers that came and spoke to him. And so what ended up happening, long story short, is his messages, his visions got adopted into our ceremonies in our, I guess, lack of a better word, religion, and those visions and stuff are still being practiced today. What was said is that he was dead for a couple days, and they knew he was dead, and then he one day just got up and just started and walked out of his cabin and was back to life. And then that's when he started telling people about these visions. Then he developed his following, and people started following the messages that he was given. Mm-hmm. And that's part of our longhouse story too. So
is that him there? Is that an image of him?
This actually is half brother. So that's Chief Corn Planter.
What's his name again?
Corn Planter.
Corn Blancher?
Yeah, Corn Planter. So he was actually one of the most famous Seneca, definitely chiefs in our history. He was very instrumental in the talks and the negotiations and the deals that were made with the United States government to get what land we have today. He was very important in doing that. He had good diplomatic relations with George Washington. Normally in this case we have a pipe tomahawk that you can see in these two pictures. It's usually in here. It's actually corn planters, but it's in a secure location because we're not open, so we don't have it on display. But it was given to corn planter by chief.
What does the pipe symbolize? What is the symbolism and message in the pipe?
Well, pipe means these pipe tomahawks mean two things. So you got a blade on one end,
right,
and you got a pipe on the other.
Right.
So typically, if you're a long time ago when the chiefs were making decisions and stuff, if you pass a pipe to somebody and everybody holds their pipe with the pipe up, that means we're going to go for peace. But with the blade up, that means that there's not going to be any peace. So he was given this pipe tomahawk by George Washington, because that's how much of a good relationship he had with George Washington. In the in the negotiations for the Treaty of 1794, which is probably one of our most important treaties as we as Onondaga people were a part of. That's what granted us our sovereignty that we still battle against every day. Not every day, but quite a bit. When the United States or the New York State tries to impose different rules on us, we have to go back to 1794 when that treaty was made that said that we are a sovereign nation governed unto ourselves, and we don't have to do things like pay taxes, and we're basically our own little country within a country. But that gets challenged all the time by New York State, sometimes the federal government, mostly it's New York State, whether it be taxes, just anything, it seems. Money, there's a dispute with the casinos right now with payments that they say that we owe them based off of our agreement, our compact, gaming compact, stating that in the compact it sort of states that after so amount of time we don't owe the state any more money, and they're saying that we do, and it got put into arbitration recently. We lost the battle in arbitration, but it's still an ongoing fight of the wording of that compact as to when and if we stop paying a portion of our revenues to New York State, which is something we agreed upon in the beginning. But in our assessment, I guess, it states that we no longer have to pay that, and that started last year. So there's still an ongoing thing right now in the courts with the Seneca Nation in New York State about that gaming money. So these things get challenged all the time. I mean, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the Treaty of 1794, but it's just an example of a constant battle that we have to deal with the United States and New York State.